Woo-woo! It's time for those 80s flashback, baby. We are here. Top 5. You were here for the 70s. Now we're back for the 80s. And we got 84 for that time. How we doing, Comic Head?
That's right. You had to get the 84, man, for the mid-80s action. I got my Perry denim representing vest on.
Styling and profiling.
That's right, for the 80s. So thank you so much.
We're bringing back our 70s, man. The Hialeah Comic Bro. Raul back for round 2.
Hello, everybody, man. So happy to be here. Been looking forward to this for such a long time. I can't wait.
And if you're missing out on Fire Guy Ryan, we are definitely going to get him back. He is not a big action movie fan. That's not his style. He doesn't like just straight action movies. So he was happy to take a bye week this week and catch up a little bit. Hopefully next weekend, we're going to rock you with some sci-fi, some 80s science fiction movies. And that is right up my man's alley. So he will be back again next week. So wishing you the best, Fire Guy Ryan. And we're going to rock on without you for tonight's 80s action movies, the best movies from the 80s that had some explosions in them. So you guys big 80s fans, big 80s action movie fans?
Of course, man. It was the decade of action. It was the decade of, what is it, slasher horror too. It was the decade of everything, man. Everything happened in the 80s.
Man, it was the birth of the sort of summer blockbuster, right? You had these films thanks to people like Spielberg and Lucas that basically changed the way we did movies. You know, those summer films that were like the event movies started with this decade. And you know, that I remember soon after this, you know, I would go to the movies every Friday in the summer to see these kind of movies. It bled into those 90s, the Jurassic Parks and the all of a sudden you're getting into superhero movies. You got your Batman, your Batman Returns, and your Spider-Man, and all that stuff I think came out of this decade.
It was almost like every week some movie was premiering. It was like blockbuster after blockbuster after blockbuster. Crazy decade, man. Crazy decade.
And this was a formative time for me. I was age 3 through 13 during this decade. Mm-hmm. So for me, these were like the movies. And I was even mentioning before we went live, some of my all-time favorite movies, period, are in my top 5 tonight.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Yeah. And you know what, I'm in 80s action movie, I feel like I'm going to that kind of movie for a certain kind of entertainment. Like, it's a separate category. I'm not going for the deep thinker, you know, the epic drama saga. It's like a fun time. It's I like it when there's just funny little one-liners, great action scenes. Like
there's certain qualities that make an 80s film, right? The muscle-bound hero, usually shirtless at given points in the story.
Yeah.
Those Arnold, Stallone, Van Damme heroes that came out of, I don't know where Steven Seagal fits in all of that, but those other guys kind of match a certain type. It was funny talking with people as we were getting into this week. I had so many people sending messages. Oh, you better mention Bloodsport. Oh, you better mention that. You know, they had so many movies for me that had to be mentioned for that.
There's a lot of passion.
Absolutely.
And this is the era that there's probably never been. There's the big marquee ones that will probably come up in our list and stuff. But 80s action movie probably has the deepest bench of generic freaking movies that I feel like 80s action spawns so many just like cookie cutter action flicks, you know. Sure, American Ninja 1 through like 7, and I love them all, you know.
Oh, that's hilarious.
I think we're gonna have some crazy lists.
Absolutely. I'm hoping not too much crossover, but you never know, you know.
You never know.
Some big hitters in this group, some home run hitters. Let's run through the chat real quick. We had Chaos in Comics right off the bat. And my man, the real Dr. Venkman, who just passed over 100 subscribers, if I'm not mistaken, just recently. So congrats to you, sir. We got JP Budget Collecting. He has a strong suspicion he's going to disagree with my picks, which would be par for the course, I believe. The immortal Biggie Shaq checking in on his NWO homies here. Unruly Simeon, Commando, he's like, well, and of course, that was the image I had to pick for tonight's thumbnail was some Arnold. Arnold, for me, defines this decade into the 90s, of course, because he bled into some of his best films in the 90s, in my opinion. But really just this is a decade defined by guys like him and Sly.
Yeah. Those are the two guys for sure.
Scott Evans is in here. Thank you for coming, Scott. I think I said hello to Unruly Simeon, but I'm going to keep rolling through here. They had a lot of chat going on here. Fire Guy Ryan is absent. He is a rom-com kind of guy. He wants to do, I'll tell you, the one he's looking forward to is some good 80s horror. So don't be surprised if he doesn't get into some of that. He's not a big fan of the slasher ones. He's going to want to dig deeper. He's going to go a little bit deeper into that category. Action Jackson. Sorry, that does not appear on my list, but that is a good classic 80s flick there. Meta Rog in the chat. Thank you for coming, sir.
Roger.
Varangian Vigilante. Danke schön, mein Freund. This was an awesome gift. If you didn't see that unboxing earlier with Charlie and I.
That was very cool, man. Very cool.
Florida man Steve Whiting in the chat. Thank you for coming out. So Sharon Life with 2 YouTubers. Now, Sharon has a live stream in about 45 minutes. So I'm going to try to keep us on schedule so that if we go over a little bit, at least we can feed you all into her show tonight, where she's got the comic assassin joining her for that. So big shout out to that show tonight. So let's get rolling into 80s action movies. I'm going to let Guest, Comic Head 84. Would you like to get us kicking off here with your number 5?
And a lot of people, and before I even get to this one real quick, I've heard it mentioned a bunch of, what makes an action movie. I wonder how they're going to approach it. One thing I did look up first was I just looked at what's the definition of an action film. And a film genre in which the protagonist or protagonists are thrust into a series of events that typically include violence, extended fighting, physical feats, and frantic chases.
I always like a couple good explosions as well. Good explosives.
So there's the Webster's Dictionary. I have to go through with a little.
That's a good point. We should probably specify a little bit. Yeah. Raul and I, we went around a little bit on, do we include science fiction action films or do we separate? And we kind of left it open as you could definitely do that. We want to do a science fiction episode of this top 5 80s. But I didn't require that. I dug deep enough that I was able to find 5 that I absolutely love that don't have science fiction. But the rules were really just, is it an action film? Does it have that adrenaline pounding, fighting, explosion kind of stuff? And then that's it. You decide, you define it outside of that.
It was hard.
It was a sci-fi decade, I will say. Yeah. When I made my preliminary list, I would say at least half of them, if not more, were science fiction.
Yeah, I was the big proponent, keep sci-fi out of it, but I had to cave in, and I've got a couple.
I came really, really close.
It's hard, man. It is so hard.
And I tried not to lump everything into action either. Like I hear Aliens has been mentioned a bunch so far in the chat. Like that one is one that I felt is more sci-fi than an 80s action movie. So that
it was obviously on any list of good movies from the 80s.
I omitted that from this one. And that's how I navigated that. There's some with sci-fi elements, but I felt there were more action flick than sci-fi. Okay, all that aside, I got my visual aid. It had to come correct on John's show.
Blue tape, I love it.
Number 5, man. I had to come through with RoboCop.
There you go.
Which I guess has a bit of sci-fi aspect to it. Definitely futurism,
right?
Stuff.
And that was on my short list too. I was definitely looking at that. What is it you love about RoboCop?
Yeah, the iconic hero did it for me. I went back and rewatched it, and every time RoboCop, especially when he has the helmet on, is on screen, I am glued. I'm like, hell yeah, this guy is awesome. He looks great. The fact that you got Red Foreman, the dad from that 70s show, who I forgot was the main villain from this movie.
Oh, he is so good. He is
spectacular villain. He like clinched it. Once I saw his performance, I'm like, oh, this is so good.
Yeah. when he gets arrested and he's taken in and they want him to sign in at the police station, he just spits a big thing of blood right on the paperwork. I was like, dude, this guy Kerwood Smith is that actor. He is amazing.
And towards the end, he almost has like a Jigsaw Punisher villain.
Yeah.
His face is all mangled.
Yeah.
Totally.
There's some straight cheesiness in it. Like the scene that made me laugh is when they first introduce like the big mech robot version.
Right.
Yeah, and they're in the boardroom like saying, "Hey, here's the new hot thing," and it malfunctions and just machine gun riddles this guy in the boardroom, and like the reaction is way tame. Like these guys just break off and have a little conversation about it. The guy's laying in the background.
Oh man.
One lady says, "Call the paramedic." It's like CPR is not going to help.
That guy's got more holes in him than Swiss cheese.
They totally just brush it off like, oh man, what a malfunction. In the robot, like their era of CGI, he looked pretty cheesy. So that's why it couldn't get higher than the 5 list. So it's flawed in some ways, but
Paul Verhoeven, let's just be honest, he loves those over the top films. I mean, you talk about was it Starship Troopers or was it Total Recall? He's just got that style of like, let's take the violence to a whole other level.
Yeah.
Nobody did like squib stuff like him when it would just like explode and it was like gelatin shooting out of these guys.
And I forgot how salty the language was in this movie.
Oh yeah,
dude, lots of F-bombs,
for sure.
I was like, whoa, I forgot. I thought this was like, I could have swore I watched this like with my parents or something, but maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. Paul Verhoeven is like, he's a great filmmaker, but like, yeah, he wants to be like on that NC-17 line all the time. He lives there.
And that was a plus for me. So number 5, RoboCop.
Boom. Dropping that hammer. Okay, Hialeah. Let's see your number 5, brother.
Okay. Hey, and no, you didn't have RoboCop on yours, right?
I did not. No,
Okay.
it was on my like preliminary list. I felt sci-fi, so I backed off of it a little bit. But there's plenty of cops on here. Don't worry.
Okay, guys. My first one is borderline sci-fi, but I had to put it in. I had to put in an Arnold movie. It is the 80s.
Don't feel bad.
I went with Predator.
Boom.
It's super sci-fi, man, but it's just it reminds me of, there's this short story back from like the 20s. It's called The Most Dangerous Game. It's where this guy gets shipwrecked on an island and the most dangerous game is humans and he gets hunted. And that's exactly the take I took on Predator, man. It's just so well done. I mean, to me, action is the villains. All my movies have amazing villains because that's what makes an action film. You know, if there's no villain, there's no nothing. Arnold, Dylan, you son of a bitch, and when they hit the hands, Dylan, Dutch, and it's just on the biceps. It's
right.
More than those.
So good.
Him and Carl Weathers, man, come on.
Yeah.
Just
Predator. It is a great blend of horror, action, sci-fi. I totally agree. That's a great way to describe it. You've got it. So you want to reveal?
We've got a crossover.
Okay.
Crossover.
Brother, not only do I agree that Predator deserves to be on this list, I think that Predator is the number one action movie of the 80s, dude. Quintessential Arnold, jacked up soldiers in a jungle.
Carl Weathers.
Quotable for days. Get to the chopper. Dylan, you are one ugly mother. I ain't got time to bleed. There's everything you want from an action movie.
Absolutely.
The coolest bad guy.
Penny, Jesse the Body Ventura.
Two governors, one movie. You know?
It's amazing, man.
I think that is such a well done movie. They make the Predator, who's not just like a monster.
Yeah.
He's like a soldier.
Yeah.
You know, who's battle damage. He's got strategy, he's got weaponry, he's healing himself, like the cat and mouse, the suspense, the noise that that little
Yeah,
Whatever you call that.
the sound work across the film is so good.
Amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
The little when he presses the thing and it starts ticking down, and he starts.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and they constantly use the sound recordings that the Predator has recorded of them. He plays them back, right? He plays them back to each other at different points. It's really well done.
So,
This is one of my all-time favorite filmmakers, John McTiernan. I think he's just a really talented guy.
The Predator was created for this movie, yeah?
Yes, this was the original creation of that creature or what have you.
Iconic.
Brilliant. The suit, the movie doesn't seem dated. The suit of the Predator doesn't look dated at all. He looks fantastic. The stealth was such a nice touch.
Yeah. When Arnold gets all the mud on
Mud. Yeah.
It's smart. It's a smart movie too, man.
Well, and again, I think that filmmaker, what I always liked about John McTiernan is he builds story and scene and character really well. So you look at like Hunt for Red October, you look at the new Thomas Crown Affair, the remake of the Thomas Crown Affair, which is a really underrated flick. You could click on his bio, the John McTiernan list, and just basically watch good action movies all day.
Yeah.
He's just that good.
The last thing I'll point out about that movie is it gave me like chills almost, dude, because there's a moment when the Predator is like up on like a cliff mountaintop and he pulls the spine out of that.
Man. Yeah.
Right. And holds it up as like his trophy and screams over the mountains. And then a little later in the flick, when all the other soldiers have died and Arnold realizes it's one-on-one and this isn't a military battle anymore, covers himself in mud, goes to the cliff of a mountain and lights the torch on fire. Yeah. And screams out to the Predator, like, let's
Come
go.
Get me, yeah.
God,
Come at me, bro. Come at me, bro.
Come at me. Love
so
it.
I will say the only reason it's not on my list is I backed off of aliens and creatures that were from other planets. I was like, okay, I gotta restrain myself and save some juice for next weekend. So that one did not make.
There is a spaceship like in the first.
Right off the bat. I know it's largely an action film. It's just, it's even a soldier film, like a war film in the first half almost.
Yeah, so good.
So I'm going to reveal two. Hialeah can do one, and then we'll be tied up together. Hopefully, no overlap. I can guarantee you, probably nobody has my number 5. It took me a while to remember that this film and what an iconic action movie it is. I went with little Brian De Palma. I went with The Untouchables. I freaking love this movie. You could pick this movie for the the steps sequence, action sequence alone at the end. I think it's really it's often overlooked as like just a great action movie with so many different fight sequences, and Connery slays it. Academy Award winning performance. You got Andy Garcia, you got Kevin Costner, you got De Niro as your villain. I mean, with that bat sequence when he just pounds that guy's head in. I love this movie. I think it's really underrated. And so for me, like, I was trying to find movies that were action movies, not sci-fi, and this one was like, yes, that is definitely one that I wanted to have. So I'm calling it action for this case, and that stair scene is fire.
It's funny you picked that because I rewatched this movie in my binge in the last week since, and I was considering it, and I landed on, just as I did with stuff like Scarface. And
I skipped Scarface it felt like,
I said, is this a crime drama? And Untouchables was like on the fence for me of like,
it is, I totally agree.
Action flick, but I love that movie. Great choice.
Music was excellent also.
Oh yeah, and again, I love that moment on the stairs when you're thinking you're in deep trouble, and then Andy Garcia pegs that guy from like between two pillars from like 50 yards away. He just drills this guy with a pistol. Andy Garcia, underappreciated in that movie. I love Andy Garcia in that movie.
Excellent choice.
All right, so number 4 for me is the one that's probably almost a comedy, but I watched this so much as a kid. Love me some Eddie Murphy. This is Beverly Hills Cop, baby.
Oh yeah,
the original Beverly Hills Cop, which for me, I know some people call it a comedy. There's just too much action in this movie for me to just straight call this a comedy. And Eddie in the 80s was fire. Like that guy could not screw up.
Dude,
Whether he was dropping stand-up or doing Coming to America or you name it, Eddie was slaying the 80s.
He was a supernova, man. He was a supernova.
Party all the time, music.
Oh my God. Yeah, the soundtrack for Beverly Hills Cop, phenomenal. But on top of all that, I felt like it's got great action sequences. It ends with a great battle, like the gunfight in the house there. For me, this was the movie that I was like, it was between this and 48 Hours. I went round and round, like, which one do I want to pick? I'm a big buddy cop kind of movie guy, and you'll see that from the rest of my list. But for me, I went with Beverly Hills Cop as my number 4.
Excellent. I remember as a young buck learning that theme song on the keyboard, playing that shit all the time.
What was the guy's name that did that? I can't remember. He did.
I don't remember the guy's name, but it's called the Axel Foley theme song or whatever.
Oh my God, Hammer! Oh my God, what was that guy's name?
I don't know.
I don't know who did that music. John is being very vanilla. Burn. But yeah, I will say this decade is it's a lot of home runs. There's a lot of home runs out here. There's just a lot of them to have. All right, so that goes to Hialeah. You got one more to reveal, and then we're all at 3 left here.
All right, I got my Arnold out of the way.
Okay.
So now I'm getting my Stallone out of the way.
Here it comes.
Probably my favorite Stallone film.
Ooh.
First Blood.
There it is.
First Blood, man.
First Blood.
Excellent film. Excellent action. It was smart. He was really good in it.
Yeah.
The villain, Brian Dennehy, as the
Dennehy is amazing.
Bro, I hated him, bro. You hate that guy. Man, it's Stallone at his best, man. It was before the muscles, probably what was it? Rambo First Blood,
Part 2, yeah.
Man, it was just great.
He had acting chops in that one. Yeah.
Yeah, he really did.
Yeah. It was smart though, man. It was a smart film. It wasn't
like Predator, yeah. It's like hunting in the woods, just like Predator.
He was in the cave, man, and the rats and dude,
he's stitching himself up and
bro, it's just he was a Green Beret. He was a Green Beret, man. But that's my number 4 film. It's
a really good. I'll tell you, I couldn't like Brian Dennehy until I saw Tommy Boy. That's how long it took me from First Blood until I could like him again as a character. I had to see Tommy Boy and be like, okay, you're a good guy now. You can be a good guy again.
It was horrible, man. I hated him. Richard Crenna was in that. He was as the Colonel. Oh man, great characters, man. Great.
Yeah. It was like a social narrative to that too, of how like the treatment of veterans when they come back from war. In that there was some layers to it for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
His speech at the end was amazing, man. His speech at the end, oh dude.
Yeah.
I didn't ask for this, or I forget what is it's so good.
Yeah. He's so good. Really that scene at the end, the speech he gives at the end makes that movie. Like it would fall apart if he wasn't able to deliver that speech. And Stallone slays it.
He slays it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Wow. So I will say my list, the people that are like, I'm glad there's some Arnold and Stallone love happening so far, because I have no Arnold and no Stallone on my list. Ooh. I went a slightly different direction, and some of my movies are already being shouted out in the chat, but we'll get to those in a second, because we're back to Comic Head 84. We're in our top 3s now, although he's got 4-3-2 going right now. So what was your number 4?
Number 4 was one that snuck up on me. Like there was one, and I guess I don't want to spoil any potential list ones, but there was one that I was like, that's definitely on my top 5. And upon rewatch, I was like, no, didn't hold up.
Ooh.
This was one that was like not on my radar, and upon rewatching it, fell in love with it. And I'm like, this is such a great action movie, and that is 007: License to Kill, brother.
That's a hot take.
Oh. Baby.
Timothy Dalton cracking your top 5 action movies of the 80s.
Dalton. You go back and watch this movie and you see how hard it holds up. It feels like a modern day action movie. The stunts they pull off in this thing, the scale of like the action scenes is nuts. Hot ass women in it. Every good action movie needs. He's having relationships with both of them throughout the movie. just put it this way: the movie, like most Bond movies, will open up with like a little Bond adventure scene, and then you get into the narrative, right? So in tradition, it does that. And this one is he's attending a wedding with his buddy. They're all in suits, and they got to go take care of a mission. It's the bad guys in this, which was also really fun, is like Latin American drug lord guys. So, and he like breaks off from the MI6, so he's like renegade mode. But they they hop in a chopper and pursue this guy. He's in like a Cessna plane. Bond has to jump off of the chopper onto the plane, put a big old cable hooked into it, and the chopper yanks the plane, so he pulls it vertical.
Right.
Like they did decades later in The Dark Knight Rises with Bane.
Heck yeah.
He did that shit in the 80s, brother, with 007. Pulled it vertical. Beautiful camera work, stunt work. And after they handle that, what does Bond do? He jumps off and parachutes down right onto the church steeple, brother. Fixes his tie and kisses the bride and attends the wedding. Yeah. And then the movie just takes off from there.
You mentioned the villains, and obviously you have Benicio del Toro.
A young Benicio del Toro.
Awesome.
Yes.
But I think the 80s and 90s don't give enough love to Robert Davi. I don't know how to say his last name. It's Davi. And he's the main thug in this, the main bad guy in this. Stuff. I just watched Goonies again with Charlie. I haven't seen that movie in forever, and I wanted to rewatch it for this just to think about it a little bit.
And he's one of the Greeks from The Wire.
Yeah, he is so good, and I've met him in real life. He is an incredibly funny and nice guy, but he is so creepy. He is just so evil and badass looking.
That's awesome, man.
And Stay Puft mentions the truck tanker chase at the end.
Right?
Awesome. Yes. Big, bodacious action. And, not from a big muscle-bound guy, but just from kind of like the cunning James Bond. So, yeah. And like I said, this isn't, probably not on a lot of guys' lists, but I just couldn't deny when I saw this movie, I'm like, I had such a good time watching it.
And he is in Die Hard. I was trying to keep that under wraps, but yes, Robert Davi is one of the two Agent Johnsons in Die Hard.
Yeah.
He had a great 80s and 90s. He was really doing good stuff. And yeah, I was just watching him at Goonies, and he's like singing the Italian, like, oh, la, 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 to the kids, and like freaking. He was so freaky in that movie. He's great. Mama, what are you doing, Mama?
Hey, did she like it?
Yes, Charlie loved it. Loved it. I was worried she'd be too scared with, Sloth can be scary to kids. I remember seeing Sloth as a kid being like, what in the heck is that?
Yeah, the ears. I considered Goonies for this, man.
I did. I watched it for this because I was like, I want to know, does it hold up as an action? It's a great adventure movie. Yeah. In the end, I backed off of it, so it didn't make the list, but that's a great
I considered it.
All right, so that leaves two left for on Comic Head. Hialeah, you want to pull off? What do you got? Number 3 on yours?
Number 3. Kenny, I am sorry. I don't agree with you on this film. You brought it up twice already. And I do not agree with you. I think it's a straight up action film, son.
I know what it is.
It's Alien.
Alien.
Yeah, bro. This is straight up action, bro. I love the sci-fi, but this is straight up action. Great characters. It's Ripley. It's, oh my God, Michael Biehn. I'm not sure if I'm saying his name right. The guy that plays Hicks.
Yeah, Michael Biehn. Yeah. Michael Biehn, yeah.
That guy's so underrated, man.
He could be a bad guy. He could be a good guy. I mean, he was great in Tombstone.
Tombstone, man. He was freaking Ringo, right? Ringo.
Yeah. Johnny Ringo.
This movie, in the part where they call up for the helicopter plane to come down and pick them up, I even love the character that was driving that.
Oh, man. She's like, at the last second, oh, crap, we're in deep weeds.
Yeah. I loved every character. I thought the casting was on point. Bishop. Yep. Dude. Reiser, that he was
Paul Reiser, yeah. He's such a weasel. Such a weasel.
A weasel, bro.
Yeah, weasel.
Dude, no, dude.
I couldn't watch that Mad About You show. I was always like, that guy's a freaking weasel. Why is he? Who would ever marry that guy?
Bro, straight up action, dude.
It's a fire movie, man.
I will happily pimp my sci-fi list for next week and say that's probably going to be my number 1 for sci-fi. I just couldn't include it here, but that movie is straight fire.
Yes.
And you know what's crazy is, and not, take it as it is, but there's not that many really great action movies with a female protagonist.
No.
And this one is such a whole. Ripley is just as badass as Rambo and all them. She home run like Ripley is so good in this shit. Dude.
When she comes out in the freaking
dude, yeah,
get out of here, bro.
heck yeah.
Get out of here.
Stay Puft was showing a little love for Bill Paxton and saying that he went against Terminators, Aliens, and Predators. I was like, hell yeah, brother, you got that right. Straight up.
Cool, man.
Straight up. And Stay Puft, we might be looking for you to join when we start rolling in the 90s here. So if you're down for that, you just keep us in the loop here.
Oh, he is. He's down.
So Aliens is a fire film, and I will absolutely have that in my 80s sci-fi. So you just be ready for that. That movie is excellent. And now we're into the three.
I just want to make one point because I wrote something. Vasquez was in Latin. She was her real name is Jeanette Goldstein. And little trivia here, James Cameron used her 2 other times, man, in 2 other movies. He used her in Terminator 2.
Okay.
She was.
Yeah, she's the stepmom.
The stepmom, and he used her in Titanic.
Oh, she's in Titanic. I'll have to double check that.
She's in Titanic. She's the mother with the 2 kids that goes back to the rooms that goes down with the ship.
Yeah. So obviously Lance Hendrickson and that cast is stacked as only James Cameron can do. I feel like his films are so well cast, like straight up. And people who always say like, oh, it's nice to have a female lead when they're talking about Black Widow. Everybody's forgetting their Ripleys and their Linda Hamiltons and all the badass ladies from the Cameron world.
Yes, for sure.
So I will say the top 3 on my list have never changed, and I could interchange them, meaning they are all number ones. It's basically like a giant list tied for number 1. These are probably some of my all-time favorite movies, just period. And so those 2 at the bottom were the ones I struggled with, but number 1 and number 2 and number 3, they're all winners. So this one is Lethal Weapon, baby. I've seen it shouted out in the chat several times. I rewatch it every Christmas. I freaking love this movie. The first Lethal Weapon is just pure excellence. And all the way through to my favorite bit is obviously from torturing Mel Gibson. You could even back up to right before that when he's laying in the desert sniping all those guys from out in the boonies, picking off those guys, and Murtaugh's throwing hand grenades to try to free his daughter, and there's a helicopter chasing a limousine. Then they're freaking torturing Mel Gibson in the basement, rubbing salt into Murtaugh's shoulder, and then he freaking chokes that guy with his feet. And then they're chasing through the streets of LA on the freeways and blowing shit up, and then they're fighting on the lawn all the way to Gary Busey. Fighting on the lawn in the spray of the fire hydrant. Freaking love this movie. This movie is phenomenal. It's funny, like the stuff between Riggs and Murtaugh is hilarious. So many movies have ripped this off and tried to copy this over the years. It's hilarious. Bang, got him in the leg. See, now we can question him. The whole bit is like, it's just so good. He's like, I didn't jump off a roof with him. He's like, well, no fair. The roof guy lived.
Danny Glover is amazing.
I love it. It's just top to bottom good. So yeah, I love everything about it. It's the perfect Christmas kind of movie for me. So nobody has it on their list?
I am very surprised, man. Only 1 crossover so far. This is crazy.
11 didn't make it. No,
that's amazing. Yeah, nobody tortures Mel Gibson on my watch, says Chris Barrett. Everybody tortures Mel Gibson. That's kind of his shtick, right? I do love buddy cop movies. I really do. They're my kind of jam. I love this stuff. It was a big game changer at the time. At the time, it was the highest amount of money a studio had ever paid for a screenplay. Wow. This was a kid. Shane Black was coming out of college at UCLA, I think, or USC. He had this spec script for Lethal Weapon. There was a bidding war. He got paid over $1 million for this script. He developed a nasty cocaine habit and went off the rails. Wow. And has since recovered, and now he made like Iron Man 3. Yeah. He made what was it? Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, which I think is hilarious with Robert Downey Jr.
Excellent.
Kiss Kiss Bang Bang slays me. I love it.
Very good movie.
So, and he also wrote A Long Kiss Goodnight, and he just really is a talented guy, even though he survived the nasty cocaine habit. Apparently, he was like snorting half of Columbia.
It was the 80s.
It was definitely the 80s. Okay, so we've got 2 left. Very little crossover so far.
Yeah.
I'm betting that there's there's probably one film on all 3 of our lists right now that we've just lightly touched the edges of. So it's probably going to come up here soon in one of these rounds.
We'll see.
So what do you got, Comic Head, in your number 3 spot?
Am I next? All right. So far we got RoboCop, 007, License to Kill, the hot pick, the hot take. Predator is just number 1. But number 3 for me, brother, Stallone had to make an appearance. And for me, it's all about First Blood Part 2.
Ooh, another hot take for me.
To me, Rambo First Blood Part 2, I think, of my whole list, is the most 80s action movie on my list. It's the 80s action movie.
Yeah.
It's, you know how Kleenex is synonymous for a tissue?
Yeah.
Rambo is synonymous with a one-man army action badass. You're going to go Rambo. If you say I'm going to be Rambo, me.
Yeah, it's a verb now.
Yes. I liked it better than, I think maybe Rambo First Blood was maybe a better film message-wise and stuff, some better cinematography and stuff. But Rambo First Blood Part 2 it just upped the ante. Sky high, dude. He was yoked on this.
Just complete action too, wall to wall.
Dude, total action wall to wall. Hot Vietnamese babe. This is unique babe representation. She was a smoke show. That was like his little partner in crime. Not to mention the weaponry, dude. He was like, this is the movie where he shoots the explosive arrow and just
right.
Yep. That was nuts. Crazy action scenes, and maybe the most. Oh, and how about when he suits up and like that's one of the best theme songs, Rambo.
Yeah.
The headband, the knife, the whole thing is just like epic.
I remember when I saw Hot Shots redo that with Charlie Sheen. I was like, it's perfect. Like it was so ripe for that kind of comedy, right?
Yeah, totally.
It's
It's over the top action, man. It's action on top of action on top of action.
Action, brother. That's what I was looking for in an 80s action movie. And not to mention one of the best scenes of, because you also have, kind of the element of he gets double crossed, right? By the shitbag from the first movie.
Richard Crenna.
He finds out that he's been double crossed. He's captured. He's tied up. He's being tortured. And they get the radio to communicate with headquarters. And he finally gets to talk to home base after knowing he's been betrayed and left for dead and set up. And they're like still trying to act earnest on the other end of, John, Rambo, where are you? We're coming to get you. We're coming for you. And that's when he grabs the mic. And he's like, Murdoch, I'm coming to get you. He springs out, dude, and the Vietnamese babe comes and starts laying him in, and he messes them all up. What a phenomenal scene when finally he's like, I'm going to come for your ass, brother. And then it almost turns into all kind of Home Alone booby traps out in the Vietnamese jungle because he's got to take on the whole, whole
army. He's slaughtering an army.
Yeah, all kind of traps and shit like that, and just quintessential action by my boy Rambo. Rambo.
I can't disagree with you, man.
It's almost an equation.
I think those 2 films, First Blood and First Blood Part 2, it's a matter of taste which one you like more, because they're certainly they are their own film. It's kind of like Alien and Aliens, right?
Yeah.
There's no wrong answer when you say I like this one or that one better, because they're just both great movies.
I always figured the title is so weird to me. I figured it'd be Rambo First Blood, Rambo Second Blood, like First Blood Part 2 always struck me as such a weird title. But
he bleeds again, Rambo. He bleeds again.
Rambo still bleeding.
Yeah, it wasn't until like the 5th movie that they just called it Rambo. You figured that'd be the first movie.
Took a while to get to that place.
Yeah, but that's my number 2. So there's only one left, brother.
And which is shocking to me because I feel like my 2 top picks are, in my opinion, like everybody's favorite list. So to have one of them be completely absent from your list is
Yeah.
mind blowing to me. But we'll
Yeah.
see what Hialeah is
That
at.
one like me too.
You still have your top two, right?
Yeah, I got my top two, man.
Woo!
You
Let's
want to
see
go
it.
or you want me to
No,
go?
you do it. Number two. Let's see it.
Dun 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 dun
Oh,
dun 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 dun
oh
dun
no.
dun 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 dun. Come on,
It
man.
had to be.
Had to be.
Do it. You go first.
Dude, it just starts with action, man, with the freaking rock. A lot of people don't know the guy that's the guy that kind of double crosses him. That guy's Dr.
Bella.
Octopus.
He's
Man, a young Dr. Octopus. That movie's perfection. Talk about villains. Who's a bigger villain than the Nazis?
Yeah. Yeah.
Come on. The Nazis. Dude, this action back to back, the removing the idol with the back, it's just smart. Harrison Ford kills it. I'm sorry. I think that's when he becomes a star.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Well, it's
that's
funny
like-
because he had gone Star Wars, Empire, and then this within the course of basically 4 years. He did Star Wars, Empire, and then Raiders, and that's like, come on.
No, and American Graffiti right before that.
Before that, for sure.
What a run that guy had.
Absolutely. And for me, this movie is defined from the minute he goes down into the snakes, all the way through to when he gets the arc back off of the truck. That 30 minutes of the movie is just like you can mainline that stuff. That is just legit adrenaline start to finish.
Bro, the part with the whip and he pulls out the gun. The guy is at the sword. Oh, dude, just funny. The fight at the airplane.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Seat of your pants, man.
Right?
Seat of your pants, dude.
All the way through to riding a horse up onto a truck, climbing on the truck, shooting those guys, sliding under the truck. The bullet hit. I still think the bullet hit, the squib hit when he's driving and the guy shoots him in the arm and it splatters on the camera is just amazing. Like he legit looks like he gets shot.
It's so good, bro.
I thought for some like this movie definitely came to mind, right? But this movie, I put it in a different category.
A lot of people do, yeah.
And I guess I'm trying to think of what the word was. I was just thinking it as
adventure. Most people put it in an adventure category. With like Goonies would be an adventure film, less than that.
Right. Even though that's not really a very common movie genre, an adventure.
No,
movie.
it isn't. Yeah.
So I could totally see it being an action movie. But
yeah, for me, this is a movie that's always been in my top 5 of all time. Yeah. I mean, it is just
it's perfect.
A perfect film. Yeah, top to bottom. Like you said, it's got comedy. I love the bit when he's like, checking himself in the mirror. She's on the other side. She flips the mirror and just cracks him right in the dome. I was like, God, that's hilarious. That whole she starts making out with him. He falls asleep. I love all of it. And quotable. It's not the years, it's the mileage. Like there are so many great lines in this movie. The guy who gets the burn on his hand and he's got the oh my God, come on, all day.
John, even the final scene, man, when he goes through all that shit, all that trouble, bro, and the guy's in the cart and he's just wheeling the ark into that big old warehouse. Bro, so good, man. What a
so good. And the photography, the style, the action. I mean, it's all that practical stunts, like so much of it, practical stunts. It looks incredible. Just the whole, every aspect is just spot on. Perfect. And I even love the giant exposition dump at the beginning of the movie when they're sitting in the classroom and he's drawing on the board explaining how the light comes down and he's opening all these books and you're like, this could be boring in almost any movie. Yeah. But Harrison Ford delivering that and you're like, yeah, give me more. I'm ready for this. And then later when he's actually doing it, you don't need any speaking, right? He's just putting the stick in the ground. He's finding the right spot. And the whole thing, you're just like, oh my God, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? And then the light shines through. It's like, come on, give me more of this shit. I'm ready.
Yeah.
So good, man. So good.
Cool. So now I am curious and willing to bet we might all have the same movie left on our board. What are the odds? Because it is, and it's on my number 1 because I think it's probably the greatest action movie ever made.
Yeah, mine too.
But let's just see because Comic Head's going to reveal his.
Something else.
This would be the trifecta. It's never happened, but we've got one pick left, and it's possible all of us have this.
Yes.
Well, let's see it.
Unveil it.
Let me tell you something.
This is your what? Your number 2, though, right?
This is my number 2, which honestly, my 1 and 2 were interchangeable for me.
And again, my 1, 2, 3, I think I
edged it out.
swapped.
Now, I feel like the movie that when this list came up, there's one movie that I'm like, that's the one that everyone thinks of.
Right.
Now, it's not the one your boy thinks of. I won't comment on the movie until it shows up on the list, but it's not. There will not be a trifecta this evening.
What?
Your boy 84 marches to his own drum, brother. And that movie, anyway, I'll reserve my judgment for that movie.
What?
Yeah. This.
Oh my God, you're gonna hit me like 90. 90. Me and him went back and forth too, bro. I bet you talked to him.
No. That
No?
movie doesn't do it for me.
All right.
This movie does it for me, brother. This is the quintessential action movie. I could watch it 50 times in a row.
I think I know what it is.
It's Bloodsport.
I knew that's what you were gonna pick, man.
Wow.
Bloodsport.
I can't believe I'm going to let you talk Bloodsport up because I do love that movie. It is Van Damme's masterpiece. It is totally worthy. I can't believe someone would make a top 5 80s action.
And not have this.
Raiders or what is clearly going to be the number one for Hialeah.
No.
That is a shocking mind blow right there.
Crazy.
All right, so give us the JCVD.
Yes. Van Damme in Bloodsport is almost a perfect movie. It is. My boy goes AWOL in the beginning. You got your chase scenes because of it. You got there's always the looming pursuit of the government guys trying to get him back. And then for anyone, and maybe it's just my age range of when you grew up on early UFC, Street Fighter video games, Mortal Kombat video games.
I still can't believe they got him to be in Street Fighter the movie.
I know. I feel like this movie almost like birthed a lot of that. This was real life versions of all that stuff for me. I feel like every fight scene was spectacular. Every different fighter in it had their own unique fighting style. The Muay Thai guy, the sumo guy, that little African dude. I don't know what
the monkey guy. Yeah, he was the monkey guy.
The monkey guy. I don't know. I'm not sure what discipline that is, but he was in there. I just felt like I watched it. Upon rewatch, I felt like the cinematography looked good. It didn't look dated to me. I was riveted
because there's no special effects, right? If you're not special effects heavy, your film can hold up.
Dude, this is number 2 on my list of 80s action, and I don't think a single gunshot happens in the whole film.
I think you're right.
A gun doesn't go off in Bloodsport, brother, and it's still
fists get knocking.
Right. Yes. I'm a big martial arts movie junkie. Like if we were talking 70s and stuff, I'd be digging into the Bruce Lee and stuff. So martial arts for me is quintessential action, and Bloodsport just holds such a special spot for me.
And a bunch of folks are mentioning Kickboxer 2 because that's a badass movie. I'm sorry, Kickboxer also, not Kickboxer 2.
Yeah, Kickboxer, Lionheart was good.
Yep.
Kenny, excellent villain too in Bloodsport.
Dude, Chung-Li.
Yeah.
Chung-Li is almost as scary as Predator was.
Scary as shit, bro.
Like
scary as hell.
Quotables in this movie all day.
Oh, for sure.
Frank Dukes. Like put up your dukes, right? That's a great line. There's a bunch of great lines in it.
There will be some rioting for Indian vigilante because I guarantee you, Hialeah and I did not pick Commando as our number 1. It would definitely be in my top 10.
Yeah,
definitely going to be in the top 10. It just I couldn't. All the Arnold and Sly movies I love the most were more sci-fi, and so I kept them for next round.
Yes,
and based on a true story, by the way.
Which is underrated. That aspect gets forgotten a lot.
Always bonus points for me. Riveting. Always loved this movie. One of the best movies that came out of the 80s for me. And yeah, brother, these are your boys' 5, right?
I'm hoping that the rumors are right and they make Shang-Chi sort of like this style, kind of like a tournament kind of movie. I think that'll be cool to introduce them.
I hope so. I think that's such a fun concept of people come from around the world to fight in a tournament, and you just see people progress through the tournament.
Yeah.
That's an underrated formula for
totally.
a movie. It's simple, it's action-packed. Loved it.
Great choice, man. Excellent choice.
Click on that. I agree, Patrick Wall. I love me some. Any good Kurt Russell. Kurt Russell had good 80s as well.
It's just amazing 80s. He had an
All right,
amazing
let's
80s.
get Kaye onto the number one list.
Yeah. Okay, so Hialeah, what do you got, brother?
Baby, yippee-ki-yay! You know it. Come on, there is no other, bro. I was going back with 90. He was saying it's a Christmas film. Man, get out of here, dude.
It's a Christmas movie, but it's the best kick-ass Christmas movie I've ever seen.
Best ever, man. Can't go wrong, baby. I could have sworn. I can't believe you did not put this in there, Kenny.
That's shocking. Hot take.
I do not like Bruce Willis as an action hero.
Oh, dude.
I won't say that I don't either in general, but that's the whole point of why he works in this movie. And why, in my opinion, the later Die Hard movies are shit.
Yeah.
Because what happens is the simple idea of a guy who you feel bad for. His luck, nothing goes this guy's way. Everything gets worse. Versus the later films where you're like, God, I feel bad for these terrorists. They don't stand a chance. Right? They flip the script in the later films. And the problem is you don't feel bad for John McClane anymore. You're like, when's he going to get these guys? Versus in this movie, you're like, damn, they're going to get him at some point.
Yeah, he was always on the ledge, right?
I think that Arnold or a Stallone in this movie would ruin it because you wouldn't feel like they're in danger. And because Bruce looks and acts like Bruce, you feel like he's in legitimate danger most of the time. He has no shot here. He's literally down to his last 2 bullets in this movie. And I think it's just phenomenal. This movie is perfect. And that's why it's been ripped off so many times.
Correct me if I'm wrong. This was his first film, right? Or
no, it's not his first movie, but it was definitely like his first big movie.
He was coming off the TV show with Sybil.
He was still on. Yeah, he's still on Moonlighting. He had just done a really crappy romantic comedy called Blind Date with.
Oh, that was horrible. Yeah.
And he just had not hit. You know, he had not hit, and
he wasn't thought of as a action hero.
No, not at all. And again, people were saying, like Comic Head, they're saying he was miscast. He doesn't belong in this movie. And that, again, for me, played to why it worked. He did not look like he belonged to this movie. He was scrawny. You know, he was not ripped. He was kind of short, and he didn't have shoes. My man doesn't even have freaking shoes.
Bro, the glass scene is classic, bro.
I just love every quality of this film, and you can jump over to the villains. You got your Hans Gruber and your Carl. I mean, those guys are phenomenal.
Hans Gruber, come on, bro.
And
great, man. Alan Rickman. Oh.
You could quote Hans Gruber in this all day. You could just quote him. He is fire with his quotes.
He was awesome. Yeah, Hans Gruber, man, for sure.
Yeah, one of the best deaths ever, man. When he's falling back. Oh, dude.
Did you hear that? Like they didn't tell Alan Rickman that they were going to drop him when they shot that shot.
That's nuts.
So they're shooting that shot, and they were telling him they were practicing and testing some stuff, and then they cut the cable when they were doing it intentionally and dropped him onto this mat they had down below.
Whoa.
So the look on his face is legit. What the heck is happening right now? Because they did not tell him they were going to do it because they wanted to get as real a reaction out of him as possible.
That's why.
That's classic, bro. That's brilliant.
And for me, I rewatched it over Christmas as I usually do, and it dawned on me for the first time ever that like the whole movie is about like family over work, right? Mm-hmm. Like the metaphor is she picked her job and he picked his job, and their family life fell apart. And now they get to the film here, and it's like he's got to give up his gun, his bullets, his everything for her. She's got to give up the company watch and let that go for the sake of family. He doesn't even get to kill Carl at the end. He's got to give that job to the next generation of cops and let them do the job. Like both of them are setting aside their jobs for the family at the end. Now, of course, they ruined that in the later films, and he went back to his job and gave up on his family again. But the point of the film, if you look at like the metaphor, is like you should not put your work ahead of your family. Mm-hmm. And both those characters had to learn that lesson. And it was cool to see it.
Bonnie Bedelia was great too, though. She was a great.
And Reginald Vell Johnson, come on, man,
come on,
great. It was driving that car. Stevie Wonder.
Even the kid in the freaking limo was perfect, bro.
Argyle. Love my man Argyle. He's great in that movie.
Yeah. Oh, bro.
So yeah, I didn't have another choice for this. Die Hard was going to be number one. Raiders and Lethal Weapon would be 2 and 3.
Yeah.
We almost, huh?
I think I went. So JP, in your face, I think we went 4 out of 5, brother. You and I had 4 out of 5 in common on this list. I mean,
Yeah, I noticed JP was in unison with you on a lot.
He's gotten a lot quieter in the chat. Is all I'm gonna say. He just he settled down a little bit. Everybody else got a little more fire.
A lot of Commando love in the chat.
Yeah,
I agree, man. Commando was really good.
It would probably be my 6 or my 7, depending on how the list.
Arnold is pun crazy in that movie, dude.
Oh yeah,
let off some steam, Bennett.
I let him go.
He's dead tired. There's so many.
I lied. I will say too, Last Boy Scout is another movie written by Shane Black, the same guy that wrote Lethal Weapon and all. He wrote Last Boy Scout as well. Another great movie. And Die Hard, by the way, also directed by John McTiernan, who did Predator. He's another great film directed by John McTiernan.
I'm with Los. Lo says best Bruce Willis movie is Fifth Element.
Ooh.
I like Fifth Element more than Die Hard.
It's great.
It has to be Pulp. He's just the fact that he's in Pulp Fiction makes that his best movie. But
yeah,
the one that action movie that he leads, Fifth Element. I dug that.
Yeah. That was a great. I love Fifth Element. In fact, it's probably my wife's favorite Bruce Willis movie. She would happily watch that any night of the week if I asked.
But you know what movie I could have swore I've always thought back so fondly of it, and it's always been one of my favorites.
This is the movie you said you thought about and then you dismissed.
I'm like, this is very weak. I've always been so nostalgic for Big Trouble in Little China. And I've always super loved. I always thought like the badass electric Raiden looking guys were cool, and Kurt Russell with the big semi truck was like a fun action hero, like an unsuspecting hero.
Mm-hmm.
And man, I watched that again. I'm like, there's not much action in this. There's a lot of like them building this random ass plot, and it was boring, dude.
It aged well.
The beginning and the end.
Yeah,
it added to the well.
Drags.
Yeah,
it's super cheesy too, which is kind of part of its charm.
Right, supposed to be.
I highlighted this comment because I couldn't not. I only hear Tucker's accent when I read this in my head. I can only hear Chris Tucker talking when I hear Kobe, my man.
Yeah.
Lilu Dallas multipass. Look, everybody's quoting the Fifth Element. They love some Fifth Element in this chat.
Yeah, man.
Wow.
No, Big Trouble in Little China is not a Polanski film, Chris Barrett. Very funny.
Yeah, no.
Very good. Okay, so we decided we're going to end with a little quick round robin because there's nothing as good as a good action movie, but sometimes there's almost nothing better than a good action sequel. And we're gonna bip through our 5 favorite action sequels right now. These can be from any decade, anywhere. Just those action sequels that you're like, yeah, man, they did it right with this number 2 here. And you guys all went first. I'm gonna run first through my list this time. I'm just gonna blast through these because one of these was already mentioned tonight a ton. Of course, it's Aliens. Aliens might be the greatest action sequel ever. Yeah. Maybe tied with another one on my list, which is Terminator 2. I think those two are just probably the greatest action sequels ever. And so they will always be my number 1 and 2, the Aliens and T2. Nobody does a sequel like that, like Mr. Cameron. He just slays those. So those would be the top 2 for me. The other 3 could be interchangeable. I got Empire Strikes Back in there. You count that as sci-fi. You count that as action. I'm going to throw that in the list here for me. Empire Strikes Back, maybe the greatest sequel ever, just flat period, or Godfather 2. Then I got my Winter Soldier. I had to throw a comic book movie in there. It's my favorite Marvel movie, period, Winter Soldier. And for me, it's almost the best action movie that they've done as well. I think the action works really well. That whole freaking freeway chase bit, fighting the Winter Soldier and ripping the steering wheel out of the car and flipping the car. I just love Winter Soldier. So that one's got to be in there. And then I'm finishing my list off with Lethal Weapon 2 because I love me some Riggs and Murtaugh. And I think that sequel still holds up. Joe Pesci bringing some comedy in that sequel. I love when they drop the stilt house. And yeah, so I'm going, those are my 5 sequels.
Oh, Jesus. Mastodon with a very, very offensive comment in the chat here. Godfather 2 is trash. Changed my mind. Whoa.
Wow, that is a flaming hot take, brother. That's a hot take.
He's in the
If
minority.
that's your opinion to begin with, I don't think I can change your mind, brother. If you've seen
that
should be enough.
that is a shocking comment.
Yeah.
But hey, I love a good hot fire comment, Mastodon. Obviously, I am full of those.
Yeah. I love a good hot take.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So let's see. Let's go reverse order. So Hialeah, what are your favorite action sequels?
All right, I didn't put these too much in order, and I'll be quick. But Terminator. What was the other one that you? Oh, Lethal. I like Lethal
Aliens.
Weapon. I like Lethal Weapon 2. I like The Dark Knight.
Ooh, JP's got some of those too. Look at you guys.
Dark Knight.
I like Dark Knight. I thought that was, it's freaking The Dark Knight. Lord of the Rings 2. I think it's my favorite in that trilogy. I love.
That's a nice subtle throw in there. I like that.
I love Lord of the Rings 2, and then I love First Blood 2, Kenny. That movie's all action, bro.
That would have been right there at the edge, 7, 8, somewhere right there.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there, man. That's action on top of action on top of action, bro. Perfect.
It's a fun ride.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so Comic Head, time for your action.
I got a pretty solid sequel list, brother. Come at me. I got First Blood 2, of course, since it's in my top 5, right?
Right.
First Blood 2, T2.
Yep.
The Dark Knight. Aliens. Mad Max Fury Road.
Ooh, wow, that's a good pick.
That's a good one, dude.
Those later Mad Max films, highly underrated. Road Warrior and Fury Road, way underrated.
Excellent. Nice.
Really yeah. Yeah, I love the what's his name?
Hardy.
Hardy?
Tom Hardy.
Yeah.
He slays it. I mean, not many people could take on the Mad Max role and really nail it like that.
Yeah.
Bro, that movie's great just for the guys with the guitars, bro.
Yeah.
To put those guys in there with those poles, like the poles coming. Oh, dude, it's so good, man.
That shit's crazy. Absolutely.
That is super over the top, man, but it works. It works.
It's fire.
So good.
Well, folks, that is it for tonight. We're going to hopefully do this next weekend, Saturday or Sunday, look at the top 5 80s science fiction films. So stay tuned for that. We're going to get Fire Guy Ryan rolling in his sci-fi love. So hope to see you all again for that. If you've got some action films besides Commando that we missed, drop those comments. Let us know what we missed, because obviously there's a lot of glory in this decade for sure. If you want to find either of these guys' channels, just click the description for this video. You'll find Hialeah and Comic Head's channels, because they definitely deserve your subscriptions. We're going to be jumping over to Life with Two YouTubers channel. So if you haven't done that yet, they're live right now with their show with Comic Assassin. It's definitely worth your time. I really appreciate everybody coming by. I hope you all have a great weekend. Have a nice holiday if you get it off on Monday. Look at this fire list. If you haven't seen any of these movies, I recommend check out your Amazon, your Netflix, and see what you got, because there's some glory out there.
Great movies, man.
Have a great night, everybody.
Dun, 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 dun.